Hey everyone, and welcome to Ink Spotlights from Comix Wellspring. This is the series where we shine the spotlight on immensely talented creators who print with us. Today, we're joined by Gifted Cuddo. Just talk about some of his books, his journey, a little bit more, and he has so many inspirational things to say as well. I'm super excited to talk to him today. So, hey, tell me all about your most recent book.
Yeah, so I just recently created a one-shot manga. It's called One Nation. Looks like this. Worked with Comix Wellspring. You guys definitely got to go get your work through them because they will make sure that is fire. And really, the message behind what I do with the One Nation brand is simple. It's more life to all and less to none. I really desire to create a story in a world where human beings can enter it from whatever walk of life. You could be depressed, you could be filled with anxiety, you could be happy, you could be sad. But from reading this story, you start at one place, but you come out a totally different human by the end of it. And that's really the message that I've looked to convey in the standpoint of my mission and my obligation to humanity. That's really what One Nation is. It's a self-improvement course.
Oh, that's awesome. And I love reading books that have like such a strong message behind it. It's put into the world with an intention. I always call stories like survival information you're passing along. And that doesn't necessarily mean like life or death, but when you're giving like any sort of information to pass on to somebody, that can help them survive a moment, it's just something happening in their life, anything that goes on with them. And I feel like your book is doing exactly that, and your intentions are moving that way. What got you to sit down and be like, I need to make a comic and specifically a manga about something revolving around these issues?
Sure. It's a really good question. So I actually didn't grow up with the intention of ever making a manga or or writing any type of story in that matter. This all actually happened. I feel it happened by divine timing. I was in Detroit, Michigan. That's where my cousin lives. This was like 6 years ago, and him and his friends, they're really into anime like I am, and they had something called Neo Yokio on where Jaden Smith was the main voice actor, and I was like, Jaden Smith involved in anime, and I was like, man, what? If he can do this, I can do this. Because at that time, I wasn't really aware that there were a lot of black creators that were involved in this world, so I just didn't have that awareness. I didn't think that was something actually going on. So from that point on, it was like, all right, well, let me see what I can actually put together. And I didn't think I'd take it serious at that time, honestly, either. I just thought it was going to be something I, do for like a day or two, and then I'm like done with it. But it did end up becoming a passion because I realized, for me, personal growth and just development and all those aspects has done so much for my life. I'm like, the world actually needs this now where we are in the climate more than ever, to where people can become happier, healthier, more fulfilled beings through connecting through anime or manga, something that a lot of people love. And maybe these people aren't aware of consciousness from this standpoint of these different things that they can apply to their life to make them better. So why not blend both of these worlds together for people to actually be able to be introduced to something, one, while they're also already enjoying something that they love and are familiar with.
Oh man, that's awesome. And I mean, you're one of those creators, especially an upcoming creator. I see so much on Instagram and promoting your message and giving insight and even insight on just comic book creation as well and your journey. And I respect that so much because there's things that like we just need to be reminded of. And that's a big reason why we do the show Inspired Ink, is just to remind creators like it is difficult, it is hard, it is an investment, like, and you can lose and or you can win, but there's so many things to take from both of those and to move forward and to keep going, because it's really easy to give up. It really is easy to get discouraged throughout everything in the world, especially now. It's wild. So having something people can look forward to and gravitate towards and feel connected to, and I guess seen and heard at the same time with your book and your message, I just respect so much. I think it's one of the coolest indie books out there that are what you're doing. You're one of the coolest creators I see, and upcoming creators I see moving through and producing work, which is really exciting. And speaking of your work, do you have anything you're brewing right now that you're working on, like a second volume or anything else?
Yeah, so I currently am working on. So the one shot actually has nothing to do with my original One Nation story.
Hmm.
This was something that I created 2 years ago, honestly, just kind of off of a situation where I didn't really have a good way where I felt I could integrate my story into the world for an audience to see. So it's not that I wasn't confident in what I was doing. It was more so I felt how I originally constructed my writing.
Hmm.
I felt a lot of people would have got bored in the beginning because it was kind of a slower pace. So I was like, no, we need something more like hands on, more so high tempo to introduce an audience to what I'm doing with my work. So I started doing research, and then I found out that Masashi Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto, he did a Naruto one shot, and a lot of people aren't aware of this.
Oh
But
yeah.
in that one shot, instead of the nine-tailed fox being inside Naruto, the nine-tailed fox is actually Naruto's dad. So there are still like things that are relevant to the Naruto we know and love today, but it's a whole different type of paradigm that he was operating in and how he did that. The same with Koi Hirokoshi, the creator of My Hero Academia. He did a My Hero Academia one shot to where Azuka Midoriya's name was Jack Midoriya. And instead of it being a situation where he was, going to be this hero, he was a struggling salesman trying to sell quirk support items to heroes. So, but it's still a lot of those same similarities in the standpoint. We still got quirks, we still have heroes, we still have a nine-tailed fox, we still have ninjas and chakra, but it's put in a whole different type of world. So for the one shot, it was the same for me, where a lot of the things that happen, how the power system works, the same like spiritual concepts and principles, they are still relevant in the one shot, but my actual story is a whole different paradigm of a world and how the people in there inhabit and how it operates. So what I did was I hired a mentor, and because I didn't know at that time what it really took to create a one shot. So I hired a mentor. His name was Monitor Comics. He's had his one shot manga published in reputable comic places. So I hired somebody that knew what it looked like, who knew what it took, and who lives, breathes, and sleeps manga. This wasn't something that just happened on the whim. It's funny because when I first like got into this, I used to watch a lot of his videos on YouTube 6 years ago.
Ooh.
So he was the guy. He's made several videos helping creators like how do you start a manga, like or how to do this, how to structure stuff, how to go about pen. So he's literally put together a blueprint for all this stuff. Now I didn't think 4 years later we would actually start. Excuse me, I didn't think like 5 6 years later we'd actually start working together. But it ended up happening in that way. So he helped me a lot in the standpoint of challenging me to really make the one shot as best as it could be. And I
Hmm.
was humble enough and vulnerable enough to really put myself out there because to me it's like I don't care about the standpoint of this happened to be perfect or afraid to show people my work, afraid of criticism. I just desire to be great. And if I can be challenged and pushed to the best of my abilities, I want all that smoke. I want to be in a situation where people are really going to challenge me to perform and create the best possible story that I can. So that's what we did. And now, because of that experience, it's made me a much better writer. I feel that the story I was working on before I met him, if I would have just kept doing that story, I don't know, maybe it would have been B plus, B minus type work just to my like just knowing what I know now because there's so much more I got from learning from him. So from the standpoint when people see volume one, which is what we're currently in production of, it's going to be a totally different experience than the one shot. But I think the one shot is, I think it set a good standard for people to be able to dive into what I'm doing in the world of One Nation, and they'll be excited for what's going to come in volume one of the official story.
Oh, dude, that's awesome, and that's really smart. I love your plan behind all that too, because it gives you a chance to kind of warm up before just jumping into the race too. And if you're challenging yourself like that, there's only growth, and you kind of need to do that. You kind of need to like, all right, I need to practice. I need to get something out just to see the quality and how it turns out, and then I could grow from there. And I'm sure you've examined your one shot enough to be like, okay, we need to adjust this. I need to think about this in the storytelling and pacing. And there's so much you learn just in the process that will help you evolve for the next step. And I think you're right there. I'm so excited for this next, installment that you're going to be putting out. I'm really hyped to hear and read about it. Where can people find the one shot right now?
Yeah, so my one shot manga is, sorry, I was like, the reason I'm looking at my screen, I realized that, so I had a live stream going and I had it going on my personal page instead of my my manga page.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh my goodness, how did I not realize that I did not have this
I've
on
done
my
that too so many times. Yeah.
so it's like, but yeah, people are able to go read and check out my one shot manga. I have a link directly in my bio. We're rapidly approaching 100 books to be sold. So that's where we're currently climbing towards right now, and it's been an amazing journey. From the standpoint of when I started this, with this book coming out back in January to seeing where this thing has ascended to now, it's been like really, really powerful in the standpoint of what can just happen if you just make a decision to be consistent and do something. Because there was a time, even like I look back 3, 4 months ago, I wasn't consistently promoting what I was doing.
Hmm.
And it's not that even then that I didn't believe. It's just that I was making the excuse of like, oh, I can do this tomorrow. I can do this next week. But it was like, no, if you really desire to, be great in this field, if you really desire to be legendary and to create something that's going to be able to stand the test of time, you're going to have to put in the type of effort that's going to be required to sustain something of that. So it just became a non-negotiable contract for me where I have to now make sure I'm putting out at least 5 to 6 videos a week on various forms of content. And sure, it could be a lot because while you're also doing this, a lot of the times once you're starting out, a lot of it is a loner journey. As an
Hmm.
indie artist, mangaka, comic creators, whatever you're doing as an indie creator, a lot of this you're doing on your own, and it's from a standpoint of, hey, well, this type of journey is going to be one that I'm going to really have to decide this is what I desire to do, because it's going to be a lot of lonely nights. It's going to be a lot of times where you're maybe questioning what you're even doing yourself. Some people don't have a strong support system at home either. So you could be working on this story, but your spouse may not believe in it, family may not believe in it. So that's more already that you have to overcome. So that's why I feel like I'm also very passionate about doing what I do, because I have to speak to the creators that to make sure that they don't give up. From the standpoint, if one thing I say can keep somebody else turning on their story, then that's great, because their story in turn may inspire millions of other people. So it's way bigger than me in the standpoint of what One Nation is. So, but all of it collectively comes back to that center and to that synergy.
Oh, dude, I love that. I love that whole message. And honestly, like, especially regarding promoting your book, like, I saw this clip of like, it was Tyler the Creator saying, people, he feels like people give up on promoting their stuff way too quickly nowadays, especially with social media. And he was saying, like, I had an album come out a year ago and I'm promoting it just as fiercely as I was a year later, because that's what you have to do. People forget, people will look by, and you got to put it in their face and let them remember. And I think you're doing that exact approach every time. Like, I try to stay off social media for as many accounts as I handle. I'll look for like a second, but the moment I
Sure.
see one of your videos, dude, I'm always like, I don't even if I don't get to watch it immediately, I just post it. I'm like, this guy has a good message. Whatever he's saying right now, I trust in what he's doing. And I'm really so adamant about like your message and what you're doing, because it aligns perfectly with Comix Wellspring and what we're doing over here. So I really, really thank you for stepping in the spotlight today. I'm so excited for people to check out your work. We'll put a link right here in the product description, or episode description. That way people can check it out. Hopefully you hit that 100 mark. I'm so hyped for you to hit that 100 copies sold. That's a really big milestone to hit. Do you want to give any quick shout outs before we sign off real quick?
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you to Comix Wellsprings. Thank you for this opportunity for me to be able to speak about my manga. Thank you for just delivering, such an amazing product in the standpoint of the quality of the book. Like, when I got it, I was literally just in goosebumps, from the standpoint of seeing how all this came together. I got to give a huge shout out to Mel for all that she's done in the standpoint of coordinating, everything for this with me. All of it. I mean, people don't understand just how much goes into being a creator. It's so many different steps and layers. It's not just it's not just like, oh yeah, I wrote this story and like this is like, and that's it. No, it's like you gotta get pages printed. There's the layers behind that. There's production. There's in my instance, I write, so I don't draw, so I have to hire an artist and like get all this. So
Yep.
there's so many like layers that goes into this whole process. So, I just got to give a huge shout out to the team over there at Comix Wellsprings. Huge thank you to, my artist, Agile, who created the one shot manga One Nation. He's out in Argentina. He's not working on my current book. Sorry, his name is Axel. Axel is the guy that created the one shot manga. Agile is the artist I'm working with now on my current story. So very thankful to be working with him and the team that I have there. And, I just, again, very thankful for the opportunity and looking forward to just continuing to be in this space.
I love it, man. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. I'm so hyped you stepped in the spotlight. I can't wait to bring you back on your next project, and another episode on something else as well. It's so exciting, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Take care.